There we go.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mayor, go right ahead.
All right, so anyone help me get this to full screen on Zoom? Otherwise we'll leave it like this. We're probably good either way, so that's okay. All right. Well, again, it's been quite a year, hasn't it? And with this pandemic going on and everything else that has made this year extremely challenging, I'm certainly glad to be here. And despite this pandemic, Chandler stood strong. We were surprised how economically strong we weathered the pandemic and have continued to thrive since then. Really has become because our diverse economic base and our conservative fiscal planning that kept us in good position. Unlike other cities, we've always been very lean, so we didn't need to do layoffs as a city. We did suspend adding people when people had left for one reason or another, and other cost-saving measures, but we actually did very well. So today, rather than kind of recap what I did the last time, I really want to be more current in terms of some of the things that are going on with their city and try to make that super relevant to you all as well. So as we move on, okay, now we'll see where I can, trying to get my next slide going on in here. Okay, there we are. There we go. So similar to last time, we really focused on what's our goals and purposes and strategies. And so this beginning of this month, actually, we met as council to review the progress made over the last couple of years. One of the things I've been a big believer on is every time I get a new group of council members is to do 2 half-day sessions just so that we can fold them into what we're doing, but also get their ideas in as we move ahead so that they've got a stake in here and we're folding in the strengths for which the community had elected them. So we reviewed progress made over these last couple of years. And as we continue to grow, we'll continue to adapt our focus sessions to meet the needs and vision of our community. We're currently working with staff to make a few updates to this plan and look forward to possibly sharing with you again once we get there. There's been some big news that certainly you all have heard about. You know, this little company not too far from you that a week ago we made the announcement with them that they're investing $20 billion into our community. And I was one of 3 that were part of that negotiating team as part of Chandler. And what was really difficult for me is my son worked at Intel at that time as an engineer, and his boss said, look, we're not going to be hiring on all of the new folks who are here as contract. You better go find a job elsewhere. And so I knew Intel was going to be doing this expansion, but I couldn't tell him. But a week later, he was on with NXP, and he's happy with them, and we'll see whether he gets back to Intel in the future. But close to Sun Lakes, Intel will be adding 2 new buildings, 2 fabs the size of Fab 42, so it'll be Fab 42.2.3, closer to the Sun Lake side. This expansion will add 3,000 new engineer jobs, high-tech jobs, and as well as in the short term, 3,000 construction jobs that will be infusing our economy, as well as this will add between probably 10 and 15,000 secondary and tertiary jobs as supply chain and other support jobs in our community that will support the additional folks that are going to be at Intel. Intel's expansion kind of exemplifies the innovation in our community as we continue to create world-class companies, and they're going to be creating cutting-edge technology right in the middle of our community. Chandler has been a part of the fabric of Chandler for over 40 years. I think we celebrated their 41st anniversary last year. They've given millions of dollars and thousands of volunteer hours toward Chandler schools and nonprofits every year. And this expansion is going to provide a lot of other new resources and opportunities for our community. One thing closer to you guys is we will be expanding the intersection at Ocotillo and Alma School as part of our agreement with them, as well as some water arrangements to transfer wastewater to and fro there. So this will have some certainly road improvements, but in the short term of road improvements, we get that wonderful thing called, pardon our dust, road construction. They also, we had another great announcement in our community that was shadowed by this. Was Northrop Grumman was awarded a contract with the Missile Defense Agency for the Next Generation Inception program. And the contract is for the rapid development and flight test of an interceptor designed to defend the nation against the most complex long-range threats. Northrop Grumman has teamed up with Raytheon Missiles in Defense in Tucson to deliver this solution on an accelerated schedule. So there's going to be billions more into our state in Chandler with Northrop Grumman, Tucson with Raytheon, as well as hundreds and hundreds of more jobs that will be part of this as well. There's our Northrop Grumman little missile site going on there. So next, I'd like to talk about some of the things that have been going on during COVID with what have we done with some of the relief dollars, as well as our own general fund that we spent, as we've discovered we didn't need to do quite the cutbacks that we needed to. So we received about, I think, $29.87 million on the first tranche from the state that we've been using for a variety of things that I'll talk with. We're scheduled, this came via the state, via the governor, and I was part of his announcement. As part of that, I seem to have a great relationship with our governor, and they do take my calls anytime I call, which is nice. But we're expected to receive about $36 million from the American Rescue Plan over a 2-year cycle, and we're working with staff probably in about 3 weeks as we await those funds to determine the best use of these dollars. As I mentioned, we received almost $30 million through the CARES Act funding in 2020, and we created programs to assist our business community, our vulnerable populations, our operational continuity, capital investment, and building our financial reserves with those dollars. Within the vulnerable populations, we focused on the community outreach. We provided food, clothing, and assistance for our homeless and housing programs, providing services for seniors, our special populations, youth, and after-school programs, and funding PPE and cleaning programs as well. This latest infusion of dollars from the U.S. Department of Treasury gave us over $7 million that we will use to boost these programs and help residents who are at risk of losing their houses to back pay up to 12 months of unpaid rent and utility fees. For those who are about to lose their house because they lost their jobs during these things, this will be life-saving. And I've worked a lot with homeless populations in our community, those who have experienced homeless, as well as I chaired the regional efforts for about 5 years. And sometimes it just takes a car breaking down, an unpaid bill that can set someone off if they don't have the safety net, perhaps, that you or I might. So as of March 2021, we've allocated over $10 million to the business community programs during the pandemic. We provided 9.75 in relief funding to over 800 businesses. We gave over 250 businesses. They've been reimbursed for purchases for personal protective equipment through a partnership with our Chandler Industrial Development Authority. And we worked with the chamber to hand out over $500,000, $500,000 of PPE kits distributed to over 1.15 thousand businesses as a partnership with the chamber. So we've really made it a goal with that first round of dollars is to see how can we get this out in the community. Next, I'd like to talk to you about our bond committee that will be coming up. So back in October, I worked with council and our staff and appointed a bond committee that is 45 people, larger than we've had before. And in February of this year, last month, the Chandler Citizens Bond Exploratory Committee provided their recommendations to council on infrastructure projects to pursue a bond election. Bond elections allow taxpayers to decide what community enhancements or infrastructure they're willing to pay for through property taxes. And of course, this applies to Chandler residents only, not those of Sun Lakes, Santan, or county islands within our community as well. Since the year 2000, the city of Chandler has held 3 bond elections. The last one occurred in 2007. And over a period of 7 months, the Citizens Bond Exploratory Committee reviewed and evaluated 80 possible bond projects with an estimated total cost of $850 million. The committee identified 52 projects to move forward with, equating to approximately $403 million in bonds in the areas of parks and fire and police and streets, transportation, libraries, stormwater, airport, and facilities. And after utilizing the remaining authority that we had from 2007, the city recommended to the city council that we pursue about $272 million in authorization for needs of facilities, fire, parks, police, streets, and transportation. So we're not doing anything with the airport. Approval in the November 2021 bond election. I have a list of these if you want to know more of what projects particularly that might affect South Chandler. And if approved, if council votes yes on this and we send this to the voters, and if approved by our voters, we would not be increasing our primary or secondary property tax using our current projections. It was very important to me is that we be continuingly sensitive to our community and not raise taxes. In fact, this year we will be lowering the city's portion of the percent of property tax once again. Although what you see on your bill, if you live in Chandler, or quite honestly anywhere in Arizona, it's going to go up again just because the valuations of property. Some due to announcements like Intel over the years, and some due to the fact that we're just a hot economy, a hot state. Maricopa County continues to be the fastest growing county in the United States these days. So if council accepts the proposed submission by the steering committee, we will call for an election by resolution no later than the end of May. And this election, as I mentioned, will occur on November 2nd in 2021. We're always looking for folks that will help us with the bond committee. So if you're interested, please reach out to me outside of the purview of this meeting as well. Next, I do want to talk to you about parks and park enhancements. Those are always important things to us. So the work on the final phases of our Veterans Memorial at Veterans Oasis Park is planned. We will be starting construction on that, the final stage in June, and it's planned for completion in time for Veterans Day. So I hope you'll consider joining me for our special ceremony this year. In Veterans Day, it looks to be it'll be a point of pride for our veteran community, as well as the city of Chandler as we finish this. We're also renovating Vida Park, and we have completion of phase 1 of Lantana Park, which is at Queen Street and McQueen. These are also planned for 2021. Construction will begin on a 4-field softball complex at Tumbleweed Park, as well as Homestead Park North, which is off of Galveston and Cooper area. A new inspection program for playgrounds and equipment will assure visits to park playgrounds and use of the amenities are safe as well. Something that Chandler takes great pride on as well is keeping our streets in good shape. And I have city council members from our neighboring cities comment me all the time about how great our streets are, particularly Phoenix. They anytime they're in Chandler, they're always talking about how good our streets are. But I've also noticed whenever we get rains, we thrive much better than Mesa, than Gilbert. And whenever I'm riding my bike on streets like Warner, I'm grateful for our bike paths in Chandler as opposed to Tempe, where they're even called a bike city. They have more, but ours are in much better shape. So With our street and bike projects, we have construction to widen Gilbert Road south of Ocotillo Road. This will accommodate the new school going in at south of Ocotillo on Gilbert as part of the Chandler Unified School District, a new high school. We will, this will go from Ocotillo to Riggs. And we're also, no, Gilbert south of Ocotillo to north of Chandler Heights. And we'll also be working on Cooper south of Ocotillo to Riggs Road. These will both begin in South Chandler. Now I realize we're doing something that I hate to do, is that we have two parallel roads, main arteries that will be worked on at the same time. Again, pardon our dust. We had hoped to move out the Gilbert plan a little later, but with the announcement of the school by Chandler Unified, we really need to get that going so that we don't have a bunch of accidents going on as people enter or exit that area. We're going to be widening Alma School Road from Loop 202 south of Germain. We're currently widened it about to Germain. We'll be adding bike lanes on sections of McClintock Drive, Kyrene Road, and Chandler Boulevard. These will connect us to the system in Tempe, as well as Chandler Boulevard that will connect us over the freeway into the Phoenix system. So if you were a bike rider, you can connect from Chandler better to that new system on what the extension of what was Pecos Road at that time. We're also doing a study of protected bike lanes on Fry Road, and that's going to be conducted. The design of these projects will begin fairly soon. So these will be bike lanes that will be separated by a little barrier from the main road. And this will extend from, the plan is from the canal, it will go all the way to a little bit west of Arizona Avenue, not quite to Alma School. Let me talk about some upcoming events. What's going on in Chandler? As our weather warms up and our COVID vaccinations are more widely disseminated, our spring event series will be kicking off. We will be having the Chandler Easter celebration at Snedeker Park on April 3rd. So if you want to come and bring your grandkids or see if you can sneak some Easter eggs yourself, you're welcome to join us at that day. That'll start in the morning. I do expect numbers obviously to be a little down this year. Good news, if you're a music aficionado like me, that we will be having the Chandler Jazz Festival return to downtown Chandler, April 8th through 10th. It's going to be, again, a reduced manner in which we're going to have smaller venues. There's not going to be booths as part of that, but in conjunction with the areas on the west side of Arizona Avenue, in front of restaurants, etc., we will have different music options at 4 things going on throughout the Chandler Historic Square. The Chandler Family Bike Ride is a week-long self-guided event happening April 10th through 18th. I'm a cyclist, and I do plan next year that we will be doing this live again this year, like last year. It will be a virtual event, so send in your pictures. We also have the opportunity, if you sign up with the Parks and Rec Department, you can pick up a swag bag on that day of the 10th or that next Wednesday night as well. We will be starting up in May our Movies in the Park series, and the Center for the Arts, the museum, the Vision Gallery have in-person and virtual experiences available. You can check out these events and others on our city's website or visit our Chandler website for all the fun things to do this spring and summer as well. So with that, I think probably the only other announcement that's certainly worth addressing has to do just with what's going on. I mentioned some of these just with our COVID type stuff. And as you all know, the governor opened things up. I had been after him to open up the outdoors. So parents watching their kids in soccer and baseball games that could already socially distance themselves or being outside, that he would release that obligation, that they come up with a plan and the city reinforce. So that was the first item, almost verbatim of my recommendation. And he certainly went forward further than that, and then also opened it up. As far as in Chandler, we're still recommending that in city buildings that you wear a mask, although this is a recommendation and not a mandate. And certainly businesses have their own purview of enforcing their own masks as more of their employees are getting vaccinated. I believe in the state, we're probably closer to, I think we're over 3 million vaccinations, which would translate between first and second shot. I believe over 20% of our state has been vaccinated. Between that and people like me who had a snarky case of COVID, I don't know where our herd immunity is, but we're certainly well over 40%, if not, or not drawing to 50. So this soon will be closer to a rear view mirror. And if you want to take me off of screen sharing, I'm willing to answer any more questions.
Mayor, thank you very much. Let me, I don't know whether I can easily take you off of screen share.
I believe in you.
How about that?
There you go.
Okay, well, thank you very much for those comments. I'm going to toggle back and forth between a couple of screens that I'm monitoring today. Anybody have any questions they would like to direct to the mayor? I will start with Bill Giesing, and folks, be patient with me if I don't call on you right away. Bill, go right ahead, and remind you, take yourself off of mute if you're asking a question.
Okay, a couple of questions about Intel. I'm sure they had other options, maybe were to put these new buildings or the fabs. Did they say what the major items were that made the Ocotillo area the winner of where to place this? And also, do you have any idea what additional revenue Chandler's going to receive now with these new buildings?
Sure, I can answer both of those questions, hopefully well, but I can answer both of them, maybe not as well. So they approached us about a month ago. And as I mentioned, I was part of the team that was negotiating with them. And they said they were looking at several sites and wanted to know what could we further do to strengthen their position here. I honestly don't know whether they were always looking at Chandler and just seeing if they could get some more out of us in the city as part of this deal, or whether we truly were in contention with whether Israel or Ireland or Portland. But I think some of the things that beyond what we're able to do to sweeten the pot is that they had land available here. They've had a good relationship with the state of Arizona. We have that Title 42 money that was recently approved for a 10-year extension from the state. We have had a great relationship with them. We currently give them 10 MGDs, million gallons of water per day. We're going to be furthering that. Chandler has always had a good water portfolio. We will be adding 2 million more to that. We have had a very responsive relationship with them. The cost of power is relatively cheap in Arizona. They have got a good workforce development with ASU and engineers, and I really can't underscore the relationship with the state as well as the relationship with Chandler. So in terms of that, I think before they said they were competing, I think we were already ahead of the game as opposed to even some other cities like Austin and other, is that they like Arizona, and it seems to work well. This will be, they're projecting to be churning out the 7 nanometer chip in that particular one. There has becoming an increasing vacuum of chips like that for automotive industry and others. Plus, this is part of, I can say 3 presidents, Obama, Trump, and now Biden, that have all made it part of their platform to bring manufacturing back to the US. And all 3 of them, gosh darn, are going to be using Chandler, Arizona, and Intel as part of their platform, aren't they? So I'm not surprised at that. I was kind of thinking that this might happen again as Presidents Obama and Trump both made a major part of their platform, Intel, in Chandler. So that's why here. The $20 billion that they're talking about is just going to be CapEx or the construction of this. It doesn't cover the cost of the employees. That will be about $4 billion per year that will be infused into our economy with with both employees, as well as other things that will be part of what they're doing, paying electric bills, paying water bills, etc. We anticipate, as I mentioned, an additional 10 to 12,000 jobs that will follow this uh, uh, times 3 to times 5 of these jobs that will also infuse our economy. So there will be the initial work. There will be the probably 4 billion per year that will be going in and out of this plant. In terms of city coffers, we anticipate probably 150 to a couple 100 million that will go directly to the city as a result of them, with water bills, with other type of taxes. That will be a directly coming from Intel, not counting the sales tax that will come from these employees going to their favorite restaurants, their favorite stores, etc. So it's certainly a great boon for Chandler, and we work really hard to be good partners with them. Did I answer your question?
Very well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming off of mute. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, anybody else have a question? Before you do a follow-up, Bill, I'm going to hit a couple other people. Dick Thomas.
Mayor, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. I spend half of my year here in Sun Lakes and the other half in Portland, and I have witnessed the expansion of Intel and Nike and a number of other organizations in Portland where the infrastructure has been challenged by the addition of these jobs, whether it's schools, roads, you name it. And I'm wondering, how are we here in Chandler going to accomplish this influx of people that will have a need for housing and schools and roads? And you've touched on some of that, but it seems to me that 4 or 5 years from now, when we've really got this thing built out and going strong, there will be a taxing of the infrastructure because of all of this. And how have you addressed that and looking at what will be done to make that work for us?
Well, certainly good questions. Let me talk schools first. So Chandler currently has about 44,000 students. And in this, I think part of this new high school will alleviate some of this. They're continuing to build in more of the Gilbert and Queen Creek area, some additional grade schools, I think junior high as well. I don't think they're planning on doing any more high schools. The high school closest to Sun Lakes, which is Hamilton, is the biggest in the state already, and their capacity will be alleviated a little bit with this new one, which is halfway between Perry and Hamilton. The bond initiative that we're doing is very timely in this, is that we will continue to work to keep our streets. We've had a long-term strategy in terms of having a great water portfolio in Chandler, which, as you know, it's water is gold here. There's an old statement that says water is for fighting and whiskey is for drinking. And in Arizona, that's a true statement. But we've worked very hard to have a robust water portfolio to even be able to offer additional 2 MGDs to Intel. And we still have reserves available. We recently did something that I don't know why we didn't do it a long time ago, but in the water world, there is wet water and there's also dry water. And it's not just by taking a hair dryer to water and creating dry water, is it? We've been pumping water in Peoria into the aquifers there and then getting credits for water. Well, we recently figured out that with a few $1 million investment, we could be infusing that water into the aquifer immediately underneath our community and further staging our own aquifer, because water that gets put into Peoria will never see the light of day in Chandler. So with doing this, it'll actually expand our ability to get paper water. And what I mean by that is if you put water into the ground, then you can pull it out of the ground. There is a water agreements quite a long time ago that have put in place to make sure that we're just not doing what California has not figured out yet, which is sucking the ground dry and continuing to have to drill deeper and deeper wells. In our community, since we have switched from agriculture to even manufacturing and residences, our water table has actually risen because agriculture takes a lot more water than you and I living here as well as others. Now, saying that, I do believe that in the future, we will be looking at more robust water saving things, more incentives to do rock and less grass. That's just whether you want to call it climate change or whether the fact that there are more users trying to take water out of the Colorado River and seeing drier years as we're at a point to where that impacts us pretty severely. We have top tier water, and even the water purchases, we purchased $40 million worth of water rights to our neighbors to the south, your south too, Gila River. Indian tribe, to where that further has boosted our portfolio of water. So we're sitting well. And so when we talk infrastructure, water is a huge component of that. What SRP and others do for power, they still think that we're able to advance more power. I'm grateful that we're not like Texas in the sense that if something bad happens, they're not part of the grid, and they've also deregulated, which means that it's harder to get power sources in there. We can actually take power from Arizona and move it up to Washington State or Portland, where you're from, and move it back and forth because of the grid, of which Texas is not part of. So, as I mentioned, the bonds will help us with roads and critical infrastructure there. Water is solid. Power seems to be solid in Arizona. So I think as we project, we seem to be on a good trajectory.
Thank you very much. I'm going to jump in and I'll maybe have time for one more after mine. Mayor Hartke, can you talk about your thoughts and observations on Waymo and autonomous vehicle maturity of use and adoption? And how do you see that as a player in helping with our infrastructure capabilities going forward?
Yeah, I am perhaps everyone is not, but I am a fan of technology and moving ahead. I've driven in, I've been an early rider on Waymo's program from the inception. I've ridden in their completely driverless vehicles where you look up and you see that steering wheel move around without someone sitting there. And to me, it's a fun experience. I believe that it represents what's part of our future. And I think it's extremely important and it's a point of pride for us in Chandler that Waymo chose us of all the places they could go. Part of that was because the state of Arizona and the governor welcoming arms in Chandler. I think it was because our people generally accept technology perhaps more than others, as well as the state of our roads and are working with our traffic systems. So they've been mapping Chandler roads for 4 or 5 years now. And in fact, they informed us, I think I might have shared this the last time I was here, is they informed us that we were missing a stop sign in central Chandler because some hooligan stole a stop sign. And they picked it up quicker than our streets department did, as it flagged as they had moved that street. We currently have the technology to platoon vehicles together through 4G tech, to where we actually can do some form of rapid transit without ripping up a single road. And the types of things that we're doing lean that way. We've got a test going on in West Chandler right now with an intersection that is rapidly reading situations that can move lights quicker if an accident happens, and it doesn't go through a transportation system. It's able to make rapid changes there if something is going on, and even detect where there is more traffic in the left lanes and able to sense cyclists going in there. So the technology is here that Waymo is employing, and we're using that in other senses. We're not that far away. In fact, we're here that these intersections will actually be able to talk to cars, and if they see a vehicle screaming through an intersection, to actually talk to the cars going the other way to help them stop quicker. So it's again, I've watched all the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator movies. I don't think that's our trajectory, but I do think in terms of transportation and moving people around, we're approaching the next season of that. We currently have a pilot program with them looking at fleet management with the city. I've been the regional rep for Chandler for Valley Metro and the bus system. We have a pilot program going with them there. Programs like Waymo, they just need to expand to where they're more useful. And you can take it to light rail. You can take it to the to downtown Phoenix to get on the catch a ride at the airport. So they're still expanding. Their safety protocols are good, and I'm a fan.
Thank you very much. Mayor, I'm going to have to draw us to a close because we need to cover a few more items before we adjourn at the top of the hour. But again, I want to thank you very much. You indicated a passion for your own coffee. I'd love to stop by and drop off a gift card from the coffee house of your choice. I don't know if you want to declare that right now in public.